Today on Uganda's election, you're welcome to AfriNews channel. This is AGK. I bring to you an update on Uganda's election. Sit back and relax as we're going to see who is Museveni, the president who has been on power for a record of 34 years now, since 1986. Now, who is Bobi Wine, the frontline opposition leader? You're also going to see whether it's true that there is a total social media blackout in Uganda. What are the expectations of the Uganda people? There is a whole lot going on in Uganda. What is wrong with African leaders? It seems a whole lot of power, too much power has been arrogated to this incumbent president. That is why he can commit all manner of criminality and injustice at will, dashing the dreams of the Uganda people and their aspirations. Now you're going to hear from our correspondent, Sarah Kimani. Now, Sarah, is it true there's a total social media blackout in Uganda? Now, tell us.
Indeed, there is an internet blackout across the whole country. And even international journalists who have been able to access social media from morning are now saying that the roaming services have also been affected. And so it is very difficult to know what is happening. But before that blackout happened, about 30 minutes ago, we know that President Museveni has cast his ballot. He cast his ballot about 30 minutes ago in his home village of Rwakitura. Bobi Wine cast his ballot earlier in the day in Kampala, the capital of Uganda. Another person who has cast his ballot among the candidates is General Mugisha Muntu, who is also vying. But one of the issues that is coming out, apart from this internet blackout, is that there are several irregularities across the country. Polling stations opened late, in some places perceived to be opposition strongholds. Voting materials did not arrive. And as a result of the internet blackout, the biometric voter registration kits have been reported to have failed in several constituencies, and especially in areas, again, perceived to be opposition strongholds. The Electoral Commission has said it is looking into all these allegations and it will be responding, but it also says that it will try and see whether it can increase voting time for areas where polling stations either opened late or voting materials arrived late, or the voting kits failed.
Thank you, Sarah. Now, the problem here is not whether the electoral umpire will do something or not. The problem is that the electoral umpire themselves are not independent. And this is the problem. This is generally the problem across boards in all African countries. And I keep asking, how do we get it right in Africa? This has caused our backwardness, our failures across board in everything that we do in Africa. Now, let's keep that aside. Maybe that will be the topic for another day. Now, let's know who Bobi Wine is, the frontline opposition candidates.
Yeah, I want to talk about this meteoric rise of Bobi Wine as a politician who can take on long-standing Yoweri Museveni. I mean, I saw videos of him that have been shared when he was arriving to cast his vote earlier on, and I mean, huge crowds there to welcome him where he was casting his vote. I really want to talk about this rise in popularity. I mean, I do understand he was a very famous musician. He is a famous musician, but in terms of his political career, how did we get here? How did we get to him being the person who can take on Yoweri Museveni?
Growing up, he grew up in Kampala, in a slum in Kampala. Now, his music and his name, the Ghetto President, seemed to reverberate well and to, speak to the masses. He spoke about joblessness in his music. He spoke about oppression. He spoke about the issues very close to the hearts of the youth. And so when he started off as a member of parliament, and he seemed to continue with that, fighting for the rights of the youth, but also the urban poor. and most of them who lived in the slums like him, and he seemed to identify with their problems. So that rise, when he became member of parliament now, spurred him to become, to go for the vote as the president, because in parliament we could see him being silenced, we could see him on the streets, and when now he started coming out to say, look, I think I'm ready to vie for presidency, the oppression continued, the violence oppression continued, and repression. And this has seen a lot of young people saying, you know, this is a person who understands us. When we are putting our wares on the streets to sell and the police come and take away our wares, he feels our pain and he understands our pain. But it is going to be very difficult for him, of course, to rise to the level that he is now of the presidency, what he wants to achieve, because one, President Museveni is very popular in the rural areas, and this is where a lot of the votes will be coming from. But also, it has been very difficult for him to campaign during this time when we have seen him either arrested, his campaign teams arrested. He has not been able to reach most of the populace through the mainstream media, and he has had again to turn to social media because he's not been allowed those audiences. Even in Kenya, when he's giving interviews to the Kenyan media, very many times the army or the police have stormed his house, and those interviews have been cut short. The other thing is he's only 38. President Museveni is in his 70s. Some people even saying he's 80. He's been leader since 1986. A lot of young people in Uganda do not know any other president. And so those who are voting for Bobi Wine and those who would want Bobi Wine to be president feel he's their age mate. He understands the current problems of the country. Indeed, on social media, Museveni has been calling the citizens of the country Bazukulu, meaning my grandchildren.
Yeah, you know, I'm just seeing something here on social media, and I suppose it sort of just came out now, and it's speaking to, you know, this issue of raids and police being used against Bobi Wine. I just see a story here that's come up. Police have raided the Civil Society Data Center in Kampala, Uganda, operated by Seward in the escalation of violent and partisan policing by Ugandan authorities, and that certainly does speak to the fact that there might be issues should Bobi Wine in fact be victorious. It doesn't seem that Yoweri Museveni will very easily give up power. I mean, as you say, he became president in the 80s, and very many of the young people in Uganda don't know any other president, and I suppose that was even the case as we saw it unfolding in Zimbabwe as well. What is likely, I mean, from what you hear in terms of reports, I mean, if this is all coming out and the media blackout, the internet blackout, I mean, I'm understanding that some media houses are being told they can't even interview Bobi Wine. I mean, what are we to expect should Bobi Wine in fact be victorious, if this is like a sneak peek of what we're seeing so far?
Yes, indeed. And just immediately after he cast his ballot, Bobi Wine told the media in the polling station where he cast the ballot that he will not accept the results of these elections if he feels that the election was not free and fair. And so we don't know what then Uganda is setting itself up for, because we have seen the other presidential candidates tweeting about ballot boxes being stolen, places where there has already been violence today. But even in the opposition hotspots, there has been a heavy police and military presence since yesterday. Some people even are laughing, is Uganda going to war or going into an election? So it would be difficult to see whether President Museveni would actually accept defeat. Remember, analysts that we have spoken to, including Dr. Frederick Guloba, who we spoke to last night on one of our sister programs, African Perspectives, spoke about President Museveni having the system on his side. He has the Electoral Commission, he has the security services, he has power, he has the media. So it would be quite difficult, honestly speaking, for Bobi Wine to win. But probably in a free and fair election, he can win. But as the situation stands now, the level has not been, the playing field has not been level from the word go. And so it is inconceivable that he can actually win. But what he has done is that he has upset the status quo in Uganda. And Ugandans now probably will begin believing that indeed somebody can actually challenge President Museveni.
Sarah, I'd like to talk about the election observers, election missions. Generally, when we have elections in Africa, we always hear of overseas election observers coming and talking about whether or not they think the elections are free or fair. I wonder what's being said at this time. And I mean, with the media blackout, I suppose it is quite difficult to also get, information. But it's also quite ironic at this time that a country like America, for instance, who would have probably sent people to Africa, has their own plate full at this time dealing with the outgoing Trump administration. What can you tell us about what's being said, really, if there are election observers in the country?
And indeed, despite what is going on in America, the U.S. had sent a team of observers for these elections in Uganda. However, there was a problem because not all of them were accredited. And so the U.S. Embassy in Uganda decided to call off their observation mission. We know the African Union has sent observers, and they have been accredited. The East African Community has also sent observers who have been accredited. But the civil society organizations under the East African Civil Society Observer Mission, headquartered here in Nairobi, says that it was difficult for them to get accreditation for their members, and so they will be observing from here. I don't understand. I don't know how they will do that now, considering the internet blackout. But we saw them do the same thing in Tanzania. But increasingly, and this is not just in Uganda, the region has made it very difficult for observers to work freely. In Uganda, they have blamed it on COVID-19. However, we know for sure that this had something to do with them not wanting a lot of scrutiny at this time.
Well, you heard her. There is a grand conspiracy by the East African leaders to perpetuate themselves in power, to edge out foreign observers, like Sarah said. Now, you can see the grand plan here, and that has become an infectious disease across Africa. And I think only the kingdom of God on earth, talking about Biafra, a new nation that we need to emerge to save the rest of the African countries from these clutches of criminality and corruption. Out of over 200 local and foreign observers, only 20 were accredited, and those 20 were the ones believed to be compromised or can easily be influenced. Now, this particular one you're watching here right now, is part of what you are saying. This also transpired in Uganda yesterday. I want to thank you especially for watching this video, and please do us a great favor of subscribing to our channel before you go. Click the notification bell also and drop your comments. Thanks.
I'm not pushing you. Get a court order to push me around, not arrest me. Monteri, do that next to the video. We are ready. You're calling me. You're calling me.
Hey, Mutwali. Aye.
Give me my money. Don't take it. You have my money. Leave my money. Give my money.
Wait,
you can't touch me. 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 Stop if you want to stop me. But you're not telling my money. You're beating me. You're beating me. This is for the government. Is it supposed to touch me? Is it supposed to touch me? Is the gun supposed to touch me? Is the gun supposed to touch me? And why are you using it to touch me? Sarah, hold the woman. Get my money. You, is it what? Get my money. You can't know it. Get my money. Why are you getting money?
Itu kama wewe nyimara. Mwenda tuntira. Ni batu ya ndoktor muronde moto katumtwa ya tikoreki.